I might need some advice on how to save a friendship. A lot of people love to start with the background, but we may as well just launch right into it, because I'm about done with this whole situation. Although, ironically, I guess the story and background are about the same thing in this case. I'm 29 male. I've had pretty much the same friend group since junior high. We're a really tight-knit group of gamers, nerds, and we hang out pretty often. Only half of us went to college, and I was the only one who went out of state. But I wound up coming back home immediately after, so we've never really had any major interruptions to our friendship. For the most part, anywho. Recently, there's been substantial interruptions. That's because my absolute best friend in the group, Seth, decides to haul off and be the first one of us to get married. Seth works at a local gas station and never goes out, so I honestly don't even know where he found this woman, but she seems really out of place in our friend group. She's young and hot, but she's the type who acts and dresses like she's a lot hotter than she actually is. She also has pink hair, so we call her Amy. You know, Sonic fans will get it. Anyways, Seth married Amy a year ago, and they were only together about 6 months before it. But she's been clinging to him like plastic wrap since day one. She's always around when we're trying to have our game nights, and she manages to always be holding his hand or touching his shoulder whenever other women are around. It's kind of off-pushing, and frankly, I've always kind of thought that she was only into him for his money. You're probably wondering how much money someone who works for a gas station could have, but you would be surprised. In addition to the fair amount of money Seth received when one of his dads passed away, he also has one of the better gas station jobs you could ever hope for. I won't say the name, but he's actually a special projects manager for the region at one of the biggest convenience store chains in the country. And, well, they paid their red-shirted employees pretty well. As any good Star Trek fan knows, however, red shirts tend to have a pretty short lifespan. And while Seth himself might survive marrying Amy, I'm not so sure our friend group will. See, before Seth met Amy, our group loved to have game nights at his place. He's the only one of us that actually owns his own spot instead of renting, and it's a fairly nice house. So it makes for a comfortable environment when all of us are hanging out together, especially if we're gaming late into the night and drinking enough beer that a couple of us might need to crash on the couch. Guess how Amy feels about that. Now, I'm not unreasonable. I get that relationships involve compromise, and it's common for people to leave old habits behind when they hitch themselves to another, younger, more spoiled wagon. If Amy simply wanted us to rotate who hosted a game night, or simply drink less so she didn't wake up to guys drooling on their living room furniture once a week, I would totally get it, but she seems to harbor a lot of resentment. That because she acts like she doesn't want us hanging out at all? The only one of us she even is nice to is our buddy Jareth, and everybody loves him because he's an ex-Mormon, and they're just nice to everyone. Meanwhile, she really seems to hate me in particular. You know, at first I thought her particular hatred towards me, it came about when she met my fiancé Leslie. I'm a huge Broadway nerd and met Leslie last year when she was starring in a community theater production of how to succeed in business without really trying. We talked after the show and found out we have tons and tons in common. So we started dating. But she's never really understood my interest in video games, so she asked if she could tag along for one of our game nights. The guys didn't mind as long as she brought food. I'm pretty sure that they meant chips or wings, but Leslie baked about 3 dozen of cowboy cookies. The guys were instant fans and told her that she's welcome back anytime soon. Leslie only occasionally took up the offer, even though she's apparently a natural at Smash Brothers, and kind of a sore winner. Games aren't just really her scene. But when I proposed a few months ago, she started coming around slightly more often. And Amy can't stand it. I didn't get why at first, because Leslie's extreme social with everyone she meets. And it's not like Amy is one of those women who hates other women. Jareth's twin sister, Claire, is also a mutual friend of the group and has occasionally been coming by since long before I met Leslie. Amy seems to have no problem with her, but she was acting a lot more huffy whenever Leslie was around. Well, guys, I found out why about a month ago. Amy's disdain for our group was getting really bad by then. When we had game nights, Amy would always find reasons to call Seth out of the room, to the point that we barely got to see him the whole night. If I made one-on-one plans with Seth to see a movie or something, Amy would conveniently have some sort of emergency so that he would call and cancel. She was completely monopolizing his time. Meanwhile, if he made plans to go bowling or play with Jareth, I'd find out that Amy was not only supportive, but even tagged along. That really cemented my belief that her animosity towards me and Leslie was a little greater than towards the rest of the group. Jareth assured me that it's been that way since before I met Leslie and that some people just don't mesh. But Seth tells me different. He says that she's always found me obnoxious, which is ironic because I'm the one quieter in the group. But that Amy did indeed start becoming more overbearing after I met Leslie. So, I don't know. And some people just don't mesh, but Seth tells me different. He says that she's always found me obnoxious, which is ironic because I'm the one of the quieter people in the group. But that Amy did indeed start becoming more overbearing after I met Leslie. Apparently, Amy thinks that Leslie is into Seth to the point that Seth and Amy have actually forgot about it a few times. It's kind of amusing, really. Seth's a great guy, but I'll be honest, in the looks of department, neither one of us are the type of guy a woman runs to when she thinks she can do better. I'm chubby, with skinny arms, and he's a freckle-faced male version of a Muppet. When he walks through the grocery store after a month without shaving, the peaches laugh at him for how little fuzz he's grown. Leslie actually does think it's cute, but not in the way that Amy's worried about. And the rare benefits of not having much in terms of looks or money is that I'm able to trust that Leslie was with me for honest reasons. So I never really worry about her running to other guys. I have no idea why Amy can't see that. But she can't. And she's been tanking our entire group as a result. Monopolizing Seth's time just wasn't enough. The reason Seth told me last month how Amy feels about me and Leslie is because that was when she threatened to break up. If he kept him, you know? Having game nights, switching the location wasn't enough. She didn't want him hanging out with our group at all, to the point that she threatened to separate from him if he continued. And I know I should be just as mad as Seth for this as I am at Amy, but he agreed. Well, he kind of agreed. See, I'm a big fan of loopholes, so I came up with one pretty much immediately. Amy didn't want him to go to game night, but she never said that he could not be a gamer. Since Leslie is a lot more supportive and since the guy likes her food, we started having them at my place. Seth would just play at home and talk to us over Discord. He was wearing a headset, so Amy would think that he was just talking to random strangers. And it worked for about 2 weeks. On the 3rd week, Jareth could not make it, so we used to have the opportunity to talk about what to do for him and Claire on their upcoming birthdays. See, Seth was a little more relaxed than usual, because Amy was going out with friends that night, so he had let his guard down a bit, and mentioned Claire by name. You see, apparently Amy was grabbing a bottle of wine from the kitchen, and she heard something. As soon as she heard Claire's name and realized what day it was, she figured out what was going on. We could hear her screaming at him over the microphone for a good 30 seconds before he shut it off and logged out of the game. It turns out she doesn't even want him participating in game nights when he's not even physically around us. They apparently had a blowout argument after that, but there's some hope on the horizon when they're fighting. Seth pointed out that cutting our group out of their lives could mean losing Jareth and Claire as friends. Since they're the only two that Amy seems to like and hit home, their birthday is this coming Saturday and Amy offered to host a dinner party for them the night before, since we've already made plans for the actual day. You know, her one stipulation was that Leslie and I could not be invited, but Seth drew a line in the sand and said we would be allowed to come because he's a good friend. You know, the thing is, I just don't know how to handle the situation. Leslie wants to use the opportunity to speak with Amy face-to-face and clear the air between them, but I have a feeling they're only making things worse. At the same time, I secretly want to do the same thing, but is that a good idea? Maybe we should just give Amy a pleasant evening and hope that changes her opinion of us. At the same time, I just don't even know if I care anymore. There was never this much drama in our group before Amy came along. She's starting to feel like our Yoko, and I'm wondering if maybe I should just stop trying to hang out with Seth altogether. Am I a bad friend for even thinking that? I mean, what should I do? Update number 1. Hey guys, it's me again. Here we are. Well, it's been about a week since I posted the issues my fiancé and I have been having with my best friend's fiancé. I had a feeling that I might be coming back with a negative update, but I really underestimated just how nuts it was going to be. I just got home from the dinner party Amy threw for Jareth and Claire, and I'm still pinching myself to check that it wasn't all some kind of a fever dream. Dinner was uncomfortable pretty much the moment we got there. Amy smiled when she greeted me and Leslie, but her eyes gave us that up-and-down glance that let us know when someone doesn't want you around. And even the fake smile did not last long. Since this was supposed to be for Jareth's and Claire's birthday, and since she knows they're both fans of her baking, Leslie made some cowboy cookies to bring with us. We knew that Amy was making a cake, but who doesn't like cookies and cake together? Throw some ice cream on there and you've got yourself a real party. Well, we had cleared the cookies with Seth, but apparently he never ran them by Amy. So she got huffy about it pretty much immediately. She calmed down quickly, but the night was just getting started. Once all of our friends were there, we sat down to dinner, and I have to say Amy is apparently an amazing cook. She made one of the best tenderloins I've had in my days. Crusted with garlic and, well, it was amazing. And she outdid herself even further with the jam cake that she made for dessert. That'll be the last positive thing I say about Amy. Well, get this. I'm not sure how she even tasted her own food because she started guzzling wine from the very start of the meal, and the more she drank, the more aggressive she gets. She insulted Leslie's clothing and followed up with a, "I guess you're not that picky since you're still with this guy," which was obviously an insult to me. When Seth jumped to our defense, she turned her attack on him. Apparently game night is not the only argument they've been having. She criticized his looks, his job, and the fact that he's still in contact with his one living father. I should not say that Seth and his dad aren't technically related. He's the man Seth's biological father married after coming out of the closet and divorcing Seth's mom. When Seth's dad passed away, his stepdad was closer to a father figure that he had left. Amy apparently thinks it's absolutely pathetic that he would even need a father figure instead of just being a man on his own given the circumstances, and the tone of the whole thing felt really bigoted. Seth gets furious and said something along the lines of, "Speaking of men, it's weird I never meet these girls you're always hanging out with. If I didn't know any better, I would think you were keeping something from me." The implications were obvious and everybody got so uncomfortable. Claire seemed especially rattled, which makes sense given she's probably one of the women Amy hangs with. Still, the table was silent for a second until Amy just got up and stormed off. With the night pretty much ruined, Seth tells us that maybe it's best if we all leave. He all started saying our awkward goodbyes, and I ran to use the restroom real quick since Leslie and I live on the other side of town. On the way to the bathroom, I passed by the den. It turns out that where Amy stormed off to, Seth keeps his PC in there, his computer. A gaming rig with a water cooling system that he builds almost entirely himself. The whole thing took him weeks and it cost about $3,000. Amy was smashing it on the floor like it owed her lunch money. Well, she didn't see me and I didn't say anything, but I did decide that I didn't need to use the restroom so badly after all. As Leslie and I were leaving, I just quietly told Seth what I'd seen. The saddest part was that he didn't even seem surprised. This is going to sound awful, but a part of me hopes that at least this helps him come to his senses and realize that he and Amy are not a match for each other. But I've barely scratched the surface of all the running arguments they brought up at dinner. It's so much worse than I realized. If he's willing to stay in a relationship like that, I don't know if this will change anything. And where does that leave us? Update number 2. After my last update, a lot of people told me that I need to stay out of Seth's relationship for now. That getting too involved would only hurt him more, and the best thing I can do right now is simply let him make his own decision, but make myself available as much as possible. I had made the first update right after coming home from the dinner party, just as a way of processing everything. The very next day, Seth texted me saying we need to talk, so I called him up. I wasn't going to leave a message because he should have still been at work himself, but he answered immediately. He was furious about the computer, but he wasn't furious at Amy. He was mad at me. And he was so heated that it took me a while to even figure out what he was accusing me of. He was just ranting at first, and he kept bouncing back and forth between saying things like, "How could you do that to her? How could you do that to me?" The next second he would be talking about how he just lost $3,000 because of me. It was all jumbled and I had to speak over him to quiet his ranting. So here's what happened. After Leslie and I left the party, Seth went inside to confront Amy, and by then she had finished with the PC and was up in the bedroom crying. He seemed deflated that night and I thought he didn't have much fight in him. But I guess he did because he said he's actually so mad that she was the one crying after smashing something he loved. At first she tells him that she didn't know how it broke and that it must have fallen. Obviously he wasn't going to believe it fell. He told her bluntly that I had seen her smashing it, but as soon as he brought me up, she blamed me. And that's not all. Seth did not believe a word I said. Seth didn't believe I would break his computer because why would I? But Amy's story wasn't that simple. She told him that I had allowed her to follow her into the den and tried to take advantage of her when she was drunk. I made a move on her, and the computer got knocked off the desk when she was struggling to get away from me. And for reasons I can't even wrap my head around, Seth believes her. He says that he wants Amy to press charges, but that she's willing to let it go if I pay to replace the computer and never talk to either of them again. Well, everyone knows how toxic their relationship is, so I figured I might get support from the rest of the group. I was wrong. It's been a week since the call, and nobody is taking my side, and a few guys are actively siding with Seth, and most of them are simply staying out of it entirely. But they keep their distance because they don't want to be involved in the drama. Leslie, the one person I thought would trust me more than anyone, has called off our engagement. We were supposed to have a Halloween wedding, and I was really looking forward to it. Update number 3. It's been a few weeks since I made an update and I gave away the money. And I kind of thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Claire reached out to me and asked about hitting on Amy, and I told her that it never happened, but she didn't believe me. The reason she didn't believe me is because Amy has cheated before with Jareth, and Claire knew about it the whole time. In fact, it turns out that Amy loves Jareth more than Seth. And according to Claire, the reason Amy has spent so much time just picking fights with Seth is because she wants a divorce. Without giving too much away, I can say that in our state, the at-fault party in a divorce has to surrender more property. Amy thought that if Seth chose to divorce her, she would get his home. I'm not sure if it actually works that way, but that's what Claire believes. That Amy thought. So once Amy tells me that, I decide to do a little snooping. And I know this won't make me sound very good, but I started following Amy. I came to her home, waited for her to leave, and simply followed her after that. And everything Claire told me is true. Amy's definitely seeing Jareth. She's seeing him a lot, and I could not get footage of them kissing or doing anything, but I think it's pretty questionable that she seems to be seeing him basically every day. And they held hands all through lunch. Nobody does that. Even most couples don't do it. It's weird. As of now, I can't really prove they're doing anything wrong. But I did follow them from the usual restaurant to Jareth's house, and I saw them going inside where they remained for quite a while. I feel like Amy's definitely cheating. Maybe I'm going crazy and simply blaming one of the people who outed me, but I don't think that's what's happening. Either way, I don't have enough to call this proof, so I'm gonna take another route. I talked to Leslie about it and she doesn't think I'm crazy. She wants to help me actually, and she has a friend who wants to help as well. So we'll see how that goes. I really don't care about hurting Amy. If this saves my relationship with Leslie, I'll call it good enough. But I'll update you guys when it's done. Update number 4. I know I was a bit vague in my last update, but I frankly just wasn't sure if it would work. So Leslie has a friend Bree, and Bree's amazing. She's a dancer and she's a Venezuelan. I figured that if Amy was cheating with Jareth, maybe Jareth would be willing to cheat with somebody else. So Bree heard about the situation. She's willing to help. So Amy does an aerial silk class. Once Leslie and I got back together, we just agreed to pay for Bree to take the same class. She made friends with Amy and she starts talking as if she was her own unhappy relationship, which is of course untrue. If any guy managed to get with Bree, he'd be an idiot to make her unhappy. But that's the story Bree told, and she convinced Amy that she was considering another guy, and Amy ate the whole story up. Bree eventually got Amy to go to lunch with her. At lunch, Bree recorded everything, so not only did she get Amy telling her to go ahead with her fake affair, but she also recorded Amy admitting to the affair she was involved in herself. Amy straight up told Bree that she was unhappy in her marriage and that she's been cheating on Seth. She admitted that she's been sleeping with Jareth since before she and Seth even married. She admitted everything, even admitted to smashing the computer and blaming me. A part of me feels bad because she actually sounded sympathetic during the part of the recording. She knew that she had done something wrong, and maybe she did. But it still happened and I still lost $3,000 over it, so you'll have to forgive me if I don't entirely feel sorry. Once we had the recording, Bree's part of the whole thing was done. I just had to wait for the next game night. Even though Seth isn't doing them anymore, everybody else is, and it was everybody else who I lost when Amy made her accusation. So, I waited until the game night and got online, under a fake screen name of course. I joined their game, then I played them the recording and I let them hear everything Amy did. I let them hear that she cheated. I let them hear that she framed me for the computer. And once they heard it, I'm sure they were finally willing to talk. Not just to me though, they also talked to Seth, and they convinced him to let him play him that same recording, and once I did, he wasted no time in kicking Amy to the curb. Yep, where she belongs. I don't really know what's going to happen with their relationship, and I frankly don't care. Yeah, I'm back with Leslie, and Seth has ditched that awful woman. That's all I really care about. I know the way I went about it is sketchy, but I'm okay with that. She deserved what she got, and I'm not apologizing for anything.